Hello everyone, and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we, Steve? It's been a few weeks. It's good to be back.
It has been a few weeks. Good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, FiST Chat fans. It's lovely to be back.
Absolutely. Before we get into our topic today, don't forget our website, FiSTchat.com. You can get all of our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, SoundCloud and our RSS feeds, and our videos on YouTube, Vimeo and Digicosm TV. You can interact with us on Twitter, Google Plus and Facebook, so I'd love to hear from you there. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, hosted on Amazon, only 99 cents. Hopefully a great read if you happen to pick one up, and helps to support the show. And we've also got our supplementary content, weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And if you think anyone may be interested in our weekly ramblings on film, science and technology, then feel free to send them to our website. We'd much appreciate it. We're sort of coming up to the end of the year. We've only got a couple of more eps to finish up our third year, so it's kind of crept up on us just like that, really. And
flies by when you're having fun, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just for a bit of a change of tack, we've got a topic that really intersects between all of our three main areas of film, science and technology, and that's actually the coverage of the JFK assassination, the 50th anniversary. And what was really interesting about all of that is that apart from the mammoth amount of documentaries that were sort of screening, offering all sorts of analyses and whatnot, to me, there's the assassination and the law behind it has generated so many films and documentaries exploring it. The documentaries themselves offered a lot of forensic analysis, from a scientific angle about, how it all went down, with numerous convincing theories as to how it all happened. And of course, there was, kind of that cold case forensic analysis where new technology was brought in to try and ascertain, where the bullets came from and whatnot. All very interesting stuff. I know both of us saw documentaries that we both thought were very convincing, but what I thought was, of all of this, is that there's just still that grey area as far as what happened on that day, and it seems like you could have any sort of theory and sort of back it up with any sort of the evidence, and it can be convincing, but it doesn't seem to explain everything.
Well, exactly, Ben, and I think it's, maybe time to reflect upon the age in which we live, whereby if you even think back to the terrible events of 2001, 9/11, where, there is documentary evidence of what happened. It's very clear what happened. Even though there are people on the internet with conspiracy theories, I think it's been fairly broadly covered what happened, Yeah. In fact, there was a terrorist attack. The thing that happened in 1963 with JFK, it was captured on some media and some old 8mm films. And one of the documentaries I saw was very interesting because they used a few of those films to reconstruct what happened on the day. But apart from that, there were many eyewitness accounts of what happened that gave different versions and rise to different theories. Yeah. And because there's so much noise around that, I don't think we'll ever know what really happened. Perhaps now, 50 years on, rightly or wrongly, we should probably just accept that Oswald acted alone.
Yeah. I'm just wondering.
Not to that, but I just say no.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in the light of how the sort of the conjecture on the evidence and whatnot, there seems to be a sort of a running theme that there was some sort of interference in the investigation immediately after the shooting. And the documentary that I saw was covering this notion that a rookie Secret Service agent in the follow-up car accidentally shot Kennedy as he was turning around to fire his weapon at where the bullets were coming from with Oswald. And they put up a convincing argument, and there was the theory that the Secret Service covered it up, obviously, to obviously that would be fairly bad for their reputation if it was found out that one of their agents accidentally shot the president. So that was one theory. I mean, the one you saw, it was about Oswald being the guy. Then there was other ones, obviously, that the grassy knoll thing hasn't gone away. I still have a soft spot for, Oliver Stone's JFK. I think he analysed it from every angle conceivable and pretty much blamed everybody for it except for Oswald.
Well, I think that maybe that's the real truth in this. You can argue whether Oswald acted alone or not, and you can say there was a guy on the grassy knoll if you want to imply that, other parties were involved. I think really if you look at the wider aspect of the whole incident, the fact that Jack Ruby came from nowhere in the days afterwards and shot Oswald dead in front of television cameras and then himself, was to die, I think that suggests, exactly as Oliver Stone has, that there was something else going on. What that something else was going on, we may not ever know who they were or why it happened, but there was definitely, on the day it might have been Oswald alone, but I think we can safely say that outside of that, he may not have been acting alone.
What about these new cold case analyses that were in these documentaries? Did you think they were impressive in putting forward their arguments?
The Hollywood version I thought was very good. So they didn't explain how they did it, but they did the old CSI magical re-rendering of the Zapruder film and several other Super 8s. It looked to me like they were in IMAX resolution by the time they'd finished with them. They showed the original that was all blurred, but somehow they managed to add the extra frames that weren't in there, recolorize it. You could see people's faces that you couldn't see before. So I didn't know that you could reconstruct from effectively analog or film grain things that you couldn't see in the film, but they did. And then they interestingly took a number of the films on the day and they did a virtual sort of 3D recreation and recreated all the angles and the timings, and they claim there's been an error in the timings, and recreated it to basically show that Oswald, whether or not you believe Oswald did it, their story is that Oswald could have very well acted alone. And I think that's plausible. I think if you come to that, to categorically state because you showed that he could act alone means he did, maybe the jump a little bit too far for me, because as Oswald said afterwards, I'm just a patsy, which means he's working with someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
and imagine if he'd had his chance to tell the story. Although, having said that, once again, Oswald was complete oddball. Yeah. His history showed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and in the one I saw, there was an interesting deconstruction of the magic bullet, and that the forensic investigator actually worked out that the reason why the Warren Commission came up with the magic bullet was because that was the only way to explain how the bullet trajectory. But it turned out that they hadn't taken into account, at least according to this documentary, that the seats in the car were in a different position than what they thought they were. And if you lined them up correctly, it's actually a straight bullet that did it. And that was actually a interesting sort of sidebar then that kind of makes more sense. And you wonder, perhaps they could have suggested that instead of a zigzagging bullet, so that Oliver Stone could make fun of it, 30 years later or something.
Well, I think that's the thing, really at the time, why would you think there's a conspiracy where it could just be a simple solution that they didn't have the techniques they did today? I mean, imagine if that unfortunate incident occurred today, it would have been caught on 10,000 mobile phones from 10,000 angles, and if there had been a guy on the grassy knoll, there would have been photos of him. And if the guy in the car behind Kennedy had accidentally shot him, it would have been seen, and there would have been photographic evidence of it. I think it just goes to show where we are today. I mean, I know Oliver Stone had his theories, but it was very interesting that there didn't seem to be any full coverage of a presidential parade.
Yeah. exactly.
I mean, it's quite amazing that there was only home movie. I mean, how can that be possible? Today, every network would be there covering it, from a chopper, from the back of police motorcycles. They'd probably even have a GoPro on the front of the car.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Maybe something like that couldn't happen today unless it's a lone nut job trying to kill them. And as a side thing, I was actually just thinking of that the Boston Marathon bombings and how quickly that was picked up. Utilizing all the footage that was gathered on the day. So, and you can imagine the same sort of, like you said, the same sort of thing would have happened if an assassination occurred in such a public venue like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we might move on. Interesting discussion, and it was a very, very sad event, a very big event in I think not only American history and world history, but
well, to people I know who remember where they were on that day, they say the only thing that compares is 9/11.
Yeah.
And just remember, I mean, Kennedy is my American hero, for those of you out there in FiST chat. And you know, as he said, we choose to go to the moon and do those other things, not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Yeah, exactly.
What a great man.
Yeah, nice way to finish that up. Alrighty, we will move on to our news bites. Film news bite from CNN. The last Blockbuster rental was so appropriate. Blockbuster, I didn't even know they were still going. They just a couple of weeks back said goodbye to an era of Blockbuster nights. The store chain shared its final movie rental, and the customer who checked out the title from a Hawaii Blockbuster location on November the 9th picked up the appropriately titled comedy This Is the End. Yet come January, high school age kids will no longer be able to use their Blockbuster their local Blockbuster as a meetup spot. You know, it's amazing, really. You know, I grew up with, I mean, obviously not Blockbuster, but the local video store, and it was actually kind of nice. You know, we'll go down there, check out what we're gonna watch for the evening. Now you don't have to leave your house because you can just press a few buttons and have something streaming to your TV. It really is the end of an era.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't know much really about the DVD rental industry, but you would have thought that maybe there was some way they, you know, could have made the kids hang out. Maybe they just need 4 or 5 big screens and they just play the movies on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids need somewhere to hang out. They'll find somewhere else. The mall.
Absolutely. Alrighty, we'll move on to our science news bite from Discovery News. Volcanic eruption births new Japanese island. Japan today announced the birth, meaning last week, I believe, the birth of a new baby island in the south of the nation's territorial waters. And it was basically that volcanic eruption, and boom, you got a new island popping up, and the Japanese are keen to claim it as part of their own territory. And I mean, we won't go into the politics of that because there's a bit going on between China and Japan at the moment as far as that's concerned. But this, I think, just highlights how volatile the Earth is and how things can change in terms of, land masses and such.
Well, that's right. I mean, most people don't know that the biggest mountains on Earth aren't actually the Himalayas. They're volcanic mountain ranges in the Pacific Ocean. And this is probably another one of them. You know, they rise up right from the floor. And, you know, sometimes they go, you know, even 2,000 metres, 3,000 metres in height above sea level. So they're actually, you know, closer to 10 kilometres in height. Interestingly, though, as well, just as an addition to this, there is some word that the big earthquakes in New Zealand in 2010 and 2011 may actually have weakened the Earth's crust.
Okay.
So it goes to show you there's a lot of activity going on underneath the surface of this planet, and there are some things to do with nature that are far, far bigger and more powerful than humans.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, our tech news bite from The Age. LG Australia investigates smart TV spy claims. LG Australia says it is investigating claims that some models of LG smart TVs are logging viewing information and preferences and sending the data back to the company's server. So I had a bit of a chuckle with this. You know, there's not only the internet plug-in thing. I'm just wondering if, you know, the camera at the top of the TV, is it switched on? Is it watching you? All that sort of 1984 kind of stuff. I would think it'd be by accident.
Well, Maybe they don't call them smart TVs for nothing. I mean, is there any law against that? I mean, Google watches what you watch online. So what if a smart television watches what you watch?
It's just a natural. It's just a natural extension, isn't it?
Well, it is. I would have thought. I mean, you know, fantastic. You know, Steve's watching Survivor again. You know,
that's the interesting thing about all of these privacy and spy things. Like, people think that it's this huge thing that you know, people are spying on you, but the fact is that the vast majority of anything, if they are watching, would be as boring as hell.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I mean, even if they do, I mean, really, as we say, you know, what choice have you got? Put a Band-Aid over the camera, like, you know,
or just resurrect one of those old black and white boxes from the 50s or something, and you'll be fine.
That's right. Retrofit yourself, although you can't get an analog signal anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Good to see you again, Ben. Good to see you again, FiST Chat fans. Catch you next week.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next time.